Welcome, everybody, to this week's episode. We really appreciate you joining us. This podcast really shows us how we can all learn, live, and thrive off of each other. By sharing our knowledge through our conversations, we will impart some knowledge whilst learning ourselves how to progress even further. Here is your host.
Hey creators, this is Roland and welcome to the Writer's Creator Space, a space where you as an author or aspiring author can get inspiration, advice, tips and encouragement on your self-publishing journey. This is episode 20 and today I will be talking about why it's important to work on yourself as a writer and author. So more on that later in the show. In my writing news, I have finished the first edit of my children's book, and I can't wait to get it to the editor because I think they will shed light on how to bring the story to life, and they will help me actually bring the story to life, because to this point I've just made sure that the skeleton is in place, but now it needs flesh. Now it needs to read like a children's book, and I'm looking forward to learning now how to write a children's book because my editor is a creative writer and a poet, so they're going to give me a lot of insight into how to write for children, which I'm pumped about, and it's something that I didn't know how to do. So, and I know I'll be writing more children's books later on. So I really need to learn this skill. So that's why I'm pumped. And if you don't know about what I'm doing, if you don't know, I am actually writing a children's book which is titled Tim's Big Fear. In this book, I aim to help kids overcome fear in their lives. The book is targeted to 5-year-olds right up to 8-year-olds. So if you want to keep up to date with all that I'm doing with the book, you can do so by joining my Facebook page or my Instagram page. I will leave the link in the show notes down below. So in other news, I read a very interesting article which talked about how many people are using the internet today. And since the pandemic started last year, that number has grown, obviously, right? But in this article, they were just giving stats, and they were trying to give you a picture of just how many people use the internet and why it's good for authors to know. But a stat that caught my attention, there was one stat that caught my attention that I'd like to share. And the stat states, and I quote, 3 billion more internet users exist today than did in 2011. But now this is where the interesting part is. And it says, and only 6% of the global total are in the USA. Or to put it another way, 94% of the world's internet users are not in the USA. Now, I don't know about you, but that blows my mind. I will link the full article in the show notes for you to read. But like I said, that blew my mind, because to think that 94% of the world's internet users, among the percentage that they gave in the article, are not in the USA. That's, again, just reaffirmed what I've been taught and what I've been told about when it regards the global market. And that's why it's important to think globally when you write your book and to include the global market in your marketing plan. Because your book, yes, it may be for the bookshop down the road or people around you, or you may just think I'm just going to publish my book on Amazon and that's that. But remember, Amazon represents 6% of the global market, and there's still a whole 94% of the market that you have not reached. And that's, like I said, for me, it just opened my eyes and just reminded me and reaffirmed why it's so important. There are so many other markets that we can choose to publish our books in, so why not do so? And we just and the good thing about that is you don't have to rely on only one market. You can rely on all these other markets that are out there that publish your books all over the world. And for me, it challenged me because right now, as I thought about it, that the international market needs to be taken seriously, because for my books, especially for my first book, I only made it available on Amazon. But that's going to change, and I need to put it on these other markets so that my book can go global. So I think with that note, I'll end my writing news, and I want to get straight into the topic of the day. And like I said at the top of this episode, it's so important to work on ourselves as writers, because when opposition and disappointment comes and things don't go the way we want them to, we can be our own worst enemies, and we start to list reasons why we are not good enough, and we talk ourselves out of things that we want to do. But what we need to do really is to build up our belief ammunition within ourselves. Now, for me, this is so important, because I was my own worst enemy as I started. So I wish I'd known about this before I started my writing journey, or on my writing journey as I wrote my first book, because I didn't know this. I talked myself out of it. I didn't believe I could be an author. I quit a whole bunch of times, and even talking about belief, I want to ask you a few questions. And as the first question I'll ask you is, do you believe you can become an author? And these are the kind of questions that you need to answer, and they need to be a yes. Because before, for me, for example, it wasn't as clear cut as a yes, right? Because I did not build up my belief ammunition within myself, right? Instead, there was a war within myself, and I didn't think I could write a book, and I didn't believe I could become an author. And because I didn't reaffirm my ability and reaffirm what I could be, then it was hard to actually answer that question. So, do you believe you can become an author? Then the next question is, do you believe you can impact people with your books? And that, in a way, is, do you believe in the message of your book? And because that's how you impact the people. And for me, at another point as well, I struggled with this, and I didn't think people want to read my book. So I didn't believe in my message. But the more after it came out and after it was published, I began to realize more and more how critical and how important the book was. So I now believe in my book. I believe in the message of my book, but it's something that I've had to learn and walk through. And this, like I said, we're talking about belief ammunition within yourselves. And these are the things that you need to settle in yourselves as you write your book. And this is one way to work on yourself. And then the last question, that I've got to ask you is, do you believe you can be a successful author? And all these questions are important because they highlight one thing, and that is what you believe about yourself and your ability. And because remember, we're talking about becoming better and how you should work on yourself as an author. And I think one of the key things is your belief, because if you don't believe you can become an author, and you don't believe that you can do it, and you don't believe you can become successful, then it's very hard when the storms come, when things get hard, that you're going to push and that you're going to keep persistent, because if you don't believe in yourself, then you're going to quit, right? So if you don't work on yourself, then when the hard times come, you will doubt your ability and quit. You will talk yourself out of what you are meant to do. So again, build up your belief ammunition within yourself by reaffirming your ability, by reaffirming what your passions are, what you can do, what you want to do, and all those things. Because again, like I said, when I was in the process of writing my first book, I was a mess. My self-esteem was low, and I quit often. But and I found myself sabotaging myself. And that's not what we want. We want instead to believe in ourselves, and want to encourage ourselves to push on and to do more, But as I look at myself now, I am stronger than who I was last year. There is still so much growth to happen, but the key thing is growth is happening. And I don't think growth stops. And I think we get into a dangerous place where we think we've arrived. And I definitely have not arrived. I've definitely got better. And like I said, the important thing and the key thing is growth should be happening, And that's the other thing about writing a book that I want to highlight, that it pushes you to learn new things about yourself, exposing weaknesses and habits and mindsets that you may have. And you can either stop and give up or embrace the lessons and grow. And so with that, as I come to the end of this episode, my hope is that you see the importance of working on yourself as you are on your writing journey. Don't be content to stay where you are. There is so much growth to happen. There is so much learning to be had. And with that, I have come to the end of the show. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast, like, rate, and share the episode if you enjoyed it. What are your thoughts on what I talked about? Comment below. And if you'd like to say hello, you can head over to my Facebook page and leave a comment, or you can email me. And as always, I will leave all the links that I talked about in the episode show notes, and I will see you in the next episode. And remember, you have something worth sharing.
Loved what you've heard on this week's episode? Well, the answer is simple. It would mean the world to us if you could head over to iTunes and leave us a 5-star review and feedback. Spreading the word really is the best way to grow our podcast and achieve even greater things. Thank you.